I still feel a little bit stupid, but like a dazed cow sitting in a field, lazily chewing the cud and gazing up at a passing aeroplane flying across the heavens, I too can be moved by greatness. Oh, hello there, my loves. Welcome once more to my channel, where I used to review books. I've been a bit off piste lately, but we're back today with Roger Zelazny's This Immortal. First published in abridged form in a couple of magazines, I think, back in '65, and then the next year was released as a book itself. This won the Hugo Award the same year as June. They both won it the same year, 1966. Can you believe that? So we're dealing with something quite important here. But before we get into the meat of it, let's have a look at my copy of the book, as usual. Okay, yeah, so let's pop it up there. This is a scan of my particular copy. This is a pamphlet edition from 1968. I paid rather more than I would normally pay for a book of this era, just because I absolutely love the cover. I don't know, I paid about £8 or £9 for it, I think, despite the fact that it has been damaged slightly by that barbaric scrawling of the 8 pence on the cover. Sacrilege, absolute sacrilege. One would imagine perhaps it was in a car boot sale, perhaps in the 1970s or early 80s, and someone wrote it on there in biro, stuck it on the thing, and someone bought it. But that's a terrible thing to do. I do not appreciate that at all. But it's not really that legible, and I can easily overlook it because the cover is so amazing. Now, this character bears absolutely no resemblance whatsoever to the main character in the book. He's not classically handsome by any stretch of the imagination, quite unusual looking, I think, and he's got one eye that's a different colour to the other, and he's got some kind of mutant fungus growing on half of his face. This looks more like Austin Powers to my mind.
Shall we shag now or shall we shag later?
But it's certainly a very arresting image, and definitely of its time. Absolutely love it, that stylized drawing. See, nowadays that'd be done digitally, but this must have been done with gouache, maybe? I don't know. But what are those round things there? They look like impacted bullets, perhaps. Again, absolutely nothing to do with the book as I remember it. But otherwise, condition-wise, very good for its age, 1968. Inside we've got quite a nice name stamp there. Someone called Dave L. Catlin has proudly stamped his name in the beginning of the book there. Dave, if you're still around, I've got your book. You're not getting it back. Well, you can if you like. You'll have to prove that you're the same person. Anyway, yeah, but otherwise, all tickety-boo. But what does it smell of, I hear you ask? I mean, that's a very important question. Let's have a little whiff. Oh, it's very potent, that's all I'll say. It's like an antique chair that's been sat up in the attic for the past 50 years. Quite pleasant on the nose, but would undoubtedly cause respiratory failure in due course. So yeah, best not sniff this one too deeply. Anyway, as ever, later on there will be other covers popping up, and you can see which one takes your fancy. This one's my favourite by a long chalk. So anyway, before I get into the story itself, I haven't read much of Zelazny in the past. I started Lord of Light, and I didn't get very far before I threw the fucker away. In short, reading that book made me feel stupid, so I decided to jettison it post-haste. The other thing I read was a book called Comes Now the Power. It's a very short story in Beyond Tomorrow, a compilation of short stories that I did on here back along. That was really, really lovely. And it didn't make me feel stupid. So it was with some apprehension that I began this one. So before I get to whether I felt stupid or not, let's talk about what it's all about. So the first thing of note is that it's all first-person narrative, and it's all from a Conrad nomikos, a mysterious fellow by all accounts, but I'll get to that a bit later. We start off with him on a remote Greek island with his new wife, a young girl of around 21 years. I think she's 21 years old, that is. I think she's called Cassandra.
Cassandra.
Cassandra. Rough night, huh? Everybody's kung fu fighting.
Yeah. Well, nice meeting you.
And they're just whiling away the days, sunning themselves, going for a swim, eating fruit, drinking wine, and copulating on the beach willy-nilly. It seems quite a splendid existence. But he's called away on business, leaves that ideal setting behind and his young wife, and sets off across the Mediterranean for work. So Conrad works for an organisation known as Arts, Monuments and Archives. So they're basically protecting antiquities of Earth's past, because where we join this story, Earth has become a post-apocalyptic wasteland, more or less, although there is, I think, 4 million people still living there. So there was a nuclear war, basically. So there's lots of areas of the world that are still considered hot. They're known as hotspots. And around these areas, there are versions of humanity that have been warped into various mutations because of the radiation. The rest of the population appear to live relatively simple lives, but the vast majority of humanity have jetted out to the other planets of our solar system. I think they're on Mars, maybe the moon. I think Titan is mentioned, one of the moons. And other ones are even further flung within the vegan system. So yes, in this setting we have encountered another intelligent alien society, the vegans. Or the vegans. If you are a vegan, you might want to call them vegans. But these are blue-skinned aliens that are, by all accounts, still humanoid in shape. They have 2 legs, 2 arms. I think they breathe differently. They have air vents or something. I can't remember now. But they are very interested in humanity. Firstly, because humanity more or less wiped themselves out. They find that very interesting indeed. And I think perhaps their own history is lacking in certain regards. So they're really interested in Earth's past. Therefore, they have started buying up large tracts of the Earth's surface to function as places for tourism. So the vegans can come down and check out this wasteland, more or less, but also take in the sights, the ancient ruins in Greece and Egypt and other places like that. So yes, enter Conrad. He's now being employed to be a tour guide for one of these vegan aliens, Court Michiko or something like that. I'm not quite sure the pronunciation. Mystico. So anyway, so he's tasked with showing him around for a week or so. He wants to see the sights, like I've said already, the ancient ruins that are in Greece and Egypt. I think those are the 2 sites that the 2 countries that we go to in this book. But all is not as it seems. This alien, by all accounts, is here to write a book based on his experiences on Earth, a form of travel writing. But perhaps it's not all as it seems. There's this idea that perhaps the vegans want to take over the Earth altogether. And so Conrad's situation is quite complicated. He isn't sure whether to look after this alien or protect him, because there are agencies that are hell-bent on preventing this happening, of course. So there's lots of political manoeuvring going on. So into this group, this tourist group that ends up travelling to all of these places, it isn't just Conrad and the alien. There's a ragtag assemblage of other people that Conrad has had some experience of in the past. I'm going to refer to some notes here because I'm not going to remember all their bloody names because it's difficult enough reading the damn thing. So we've got Don Dos Santos, who's part of the group that wants Earth taken back from the vegans, and his partner Diane, who is a former lover of Conrad. We've also got Hassan, who's Santos' bodyguard, but is also an assassin. Again, Conrad has had experience of working with this assassin in the past. We've also got Earth's last poet laureate, who's called Phil, and we've also got a married couple who are both scientists, biologists, I think. Well, the husband is a biologist who's interested in genetics and evolution, I think, within this new scenario of a nuclear wasteland. Now, something I haven't mentioned yet, I'm not going to go into any more of the story itself. It is an adventure, and it takes place largely in Greece and in Egypt. Various things happen. It's quite exciting at times. There's lots of points of interest, lots of political intrigue. Who's going to die? Will they die? Where are they going to die? Will they die? Who knows? I'm not going to tell you any of that. It's not going to be any spoilers here. But what I haven't talked about is Conrad himself. So, interestingly, as the title suggests, this Immortal, this man could very well be immortal. His age is unknown, but he appears to have lived several lives, purposely changing his name at certain points in his past to throw people off the scent of how old he actually is. So we don't really know how old he is, and whether he is, the suggestions perhaps that he dates back to the ancient past, to ancient Greece. That's where he's from. But there's also a suggestion that he could possibly be his immortality as a consequence of the mutation that he's received at the hands of these nuclear bombs dropping. I don't know where I am on that. I think it can be read in various different ways. I like to think that he's ancient and that he could be like a demigod, perhaps. I think he's very fortunate if the mutation has allowed him to become immortal, whereas other poor bastards have got various other maladies that you really wouldn't want. So, I thought I'd begin with negative stuff. Why not? Let's begin negative. Because I started this off by saying Lord of Light made me feel stupid. So, did this make me feel stupid? In short, yes, it did. At the beginning, certainly. Now, there's various reasons for this. Largely, these could be my own failings, intellectually speaking, and just knowledge that I have of ancient Greek mythology, for example. But one example I would have is that at the very beginning, when Conrad encounters these other people, so people that he's known in his past, and of course this alien court. Now, these characters are introduced just slap bang. They smack you right in the face with them. We don't know who they are at the beginning, and we find out eventually who they are. But at the beginning, it's so confusing. Who the hell these people are, what relationship they have with Conrad. We obviously know that there is some, he knows them, some of them anyway. But then the names put you off as well. Some people are called something, and then sometimes he'll refer to their surname or their first name. You're thinking, who the hell is that? Is that someone else? And then I think it might be Diane, I'm not sure, or one of the others. I can't remember. One of the two women. It's referred to as Red sometimes. She's got red hair, but then referring to her by her name, and I was just all over the place at the beginning. But that's probably my own problem, because I like things more set in concrete, perhaps, so I know where I am. That's probably my own failing. But as I've suggested, there is a lot of ancient Greek mythology that's bandied about here and there, and quite a bit of it actually. Names that I struggled to read, never mind attempting to pronounce. I mean, I can't even speak English properly. And whilst we're on the subject of English, there were English words there that I'd never encountered before. I like that. I like learning new words of my own language. And it's something that should be encouraged. I keep a folder on my phone for new words so I can learn the damn things. That's the only way we can get better at things, of course. But some of these words were, I would say, tiptoeing into the realm of pretentiousness. Words that need not have been used. I looked up some of these words and thought, well, there's no way in hell I'm ever going to learn that word because I'll never use it. The only way I would use it is to come off as pretentious, perhaps, or more intelligent than I actually am. So I'm not sure if that's because of the time it this was written, perhaps, or the audience that he's aiming this book at, because this is certainly, I suppose, what you would call more highbrow science fiction. It's certainly got more going on under the hood than your regular pulpy stuff. I mean, it's trying to do something important. It's trying to say something important. And of course, it won this award. So I don't normally do this, but I have looked at some other people reviewing this just to see what their take on it was. And I think you've got some people that really do understand it just because that's their thing. You know, they perhaps have the intellectual background, the nous to understand this on the level that the author intended. Then you've got other people that will say, yeah, I was confused, blah blah blah, but it's still amazing. So I think people are sometimes swayed by the fact that it's a book that's held in high regard, and they're going to like it whether they did like it or not. But I'm not going to do that. But we'll see what I think about it a bit later. I think that's something that put me off Lord of Light. There were so many mentions of, I think at the beginning it was like Hindu gods, various gods. And I thought, and this is the way I think, I thought, well, it must be important that we understand this religion well enough to understand what's going to be unfolding in the story. Much the same with this one. I thought, well, I'm going to need a basic understanding of Greek mythology if I'm going to really understand this properly. After a while, I disregarded that notion. When these names came up and references to certain places, I would look them up occasionally just to, you know, help myself out a little. But I think the general bent of it is that you don't necessarily need to know all of that. But mythology plays an important part in the story, not only because it's mostly intrinsic to Greece. I mean, we're dealing with the place where Conrad is from. There's even suggestions that there's mythological creatures that are coming back. I mean, is that a spoiler? I don't think it is. But why is that? Is it because this is close to the end of days, perhaps? Or were they always there and they're just coming out of the woodwork because there's less people around? Or again, is it a consequence of the radioactive mutations that are going on? There are lots of things to ponder there. So after all of that, I still bloody enjoyed it. Isn't that strange? And it's not because I feel as though I should enjoy it, because anyone who saw my Moon is a Harsh Mistress review will know that if I don't like something, I'll bloody well say it, whether I understand it or not properly. But this was actually quite enjoyable to read. Once I got over the stumbling blocks at the very beginning, it moves at a very fast pace. Lots is happening. It's got pulpy elements, I would say. I mean, the adventure aspect of it, the things that they encounter, things that happen, the strangeness of it at times, all very interesting, very well written. And the character himself, this first-person narrative, is very likeable indeed. And I think that's a very important trait when you're dealing with first-person narrative. Everything is channeled through their mind, their perceptions. If you don't like this person, it's going to be a hellish thing to read, I think. So it's important that we like this chap, Conrad. We know there's something about Conrad. We know that he's long-lived. We don't know how long. Potentially it's not as long as we think it is, but there's something about him that's interesting. There's a really interesting scene, or quite enjoyable scene, part of the way through where, so we don't know who's trying to kill each other, basically, but something goes wrong with Hassan, the assassin's training robot. He carries a robot around with him and kind of tussles with this robot on a daily basis. So he sets it to, give him a workout for 20 minutes and they're fighting each other. But by all accounts, this robot is an absolute unit and could easily kill even Hassan, this professional assassin. Anyway, this robot goes completely bonkers and goes for Conrad, goes to kill him. And the interaction he has with this robot is kind of ambivalent. We don't know that there's definitely human frailty there. That he is human. He isn't superhuman. He doesn't dispatch this robot in a single punch like One Punch Man would. But he's victorious. He will defeat this robot. Spoiler. That's a tiny spoiler. But yeah, but there's more to him than meets the eye. He is superhuman, I would say. He's not like Superman, but he's getting there perhaps. Just. So yeah, one last thing I'd say about Conrad, and something, the aspect I quite liked is that right from the get-go, I mean, his wife kind of is toying with him at the very beginning, calling him Kalikanzaros, this mythical creature that will one day destroy the Earth, potentially destroy the Earth. So right from the get-go, there's an ambivalence there about Conrad himself. Will he be Earth's savior, or will he, whether purposefully or not, be responsible for the destruction of Earth or humanity's presence on Earth? The same ambivalence is expressed in his character. At times he can be glib and humorous, but at other times scathing and very articulate. On the surface, he often appears to be a man of whimsy, but at other times he's there kicking the hell out of a robot and saving the life of someone he isn't actually sure whether it's worth saving at all. So he seems to have quite high moral fibre as well. There's lots of ambiguities, lots of contradictions, shall we say. Anyway, apologies, I've been rambling as ever. Hopefully I've taken mercy on you and edited the devil out of it. But let's get this book down and give it a damn good thrashing. So my rateometer, very much like a Geiger counter on the edge of one of these hotspots, was quivering all over the place. At the very beginning, it was around the 2 mark, and I was getting ready to chuck it out of the window. But as I went on, the needle rose further and further up the scale, and it ended, my loves, on 4. Yes, quite lovely. So, yeah, in conclusion, I still feel a little bit stupid having read this book. I must say, I would like to read it again after having perhaps read the Homer's, whatever it is, Iliad? All I've gleaned of ancient Greek mythology comes from, Jason and the Argonauts, and what's the other one? Ulysses, remember that?
It is the 31st century. Ulysses killed the giant Cyclops when he rescued the children and his son Telemachus. But the ancient gods of Olympus are angry and threaten a terrible revenge.
Mortals, you defy the gods? I sentence you to travel among unknown stars until you find the kingdom of Hades. Your bodies will stay as lifeless as stone.
Ulysses, the way back to Earth has been wiped from my memory.
Father! Oh, Father!
You are alive, my son.
Yeah, so that's the extent of it. But all of that said, I still feel a little bit stupid. But like a dazed cow sitting in a field, lazily chewing the cud and gazing up at a passing aeroplane flying across the heavens, I too can be moved by greatness. But yeah, it's one of those books that I think there's various levels that you can enjoy it. I was able to just wallow in the shallows of this and enjoy it for what it did, superficially perhaps more, but at the same time being vaguely aware of the greater undertow that was under this great ocean that I'm trying to use as a simile, and it's not quite working. But there is something about this book that's impressive, and it's not just because it's not... My initial impression is it's just catering to people that are perhaps jaded readers, and it's trying to do something that only a few people will understand. Aha, this is amazing. But no, there's more going on than that. It does appeal to lesser minds, such as myself. Anyway, let's end it there. This is going to be an absolute nightmare to edit. Thanks for watching if you have. I'll have a book haul next, I think, perhaps. But that scratch card wizard is dead until the end of the summer, and I'll pop him out again, see if we can finally retire. If I do eventually win my fortune at those scratch cards and I do retire, I'll be doing videos all the time and you'll be absolutely sick of me. It's probably bad enough as it is. I'll try and slow down the rate unless you want more. Anyway, let's leave it there. Cheerio, and thanks for watching. Cheerio.